The night my sister called my 7-year-old son, the receipt from my biggest mistake, in front of 200 wedding guests, my mother laughed before she remembered she was supposed to look horrified. My father raised his bourbon and said, "At least somebody finally told the truth." I was standing beside table 19 in a navy dress I had hemmed myself, holding a walnut box containing a wedding gift I had saved 5 months to buy. I had already been moved off the family table because my sister said single mom energy would ruin the photographs. I had already watched my name disappear from the printed family program. I had already smiled through a dinner where relatives asked whether my son's father still sent money, as if that was the only interesting thing about either of us. Then my sister lifted her champagne glass and turned my life into entertainment. What she did not know was that her new husband had spent the previous 3 weeks quietly tracing the anonymous messages that had cost me the biggest promotion of my career. When he stood up, took the microphone from her hand, and said, "Claire, I know those messages came from you." The ballroom became so silent I could hear the ice settling in the water glasses. My name is Rachel Bennett. I was 36 years old when that happened, a single mother, and a continuity planner for a regional hospital network in Raleigh, North Carolina. My job was to build backup plans for the days nobody wanted to imagine: hurricanes, power failures, supply shortages, flooding, cyber outages, the ugly, ordinary disasters that do not care whether anyone feels prepared. I was good at staying calm when other people panicked. I knew how to relocate patients when roads closed, how to find refrigerated medication when generators failed, how to build a temporary command center from folding tables and extension cords. None of that helped me understand why walking into my own sister's wedding made me feel more exposed than standing inside a hospital during a Category 4 storm. My younger sister Claire was 34, though she had spent most of our lives calling me the little one whenever she wanted to make me sound childish. Claire worked in corporate communications for a luxury home builder in Charlotte. She was beautiful in a polished, expensive way that seemed effortless until you knew how many people were working behind the curtain. Hair appointments, spray tans, stylists, personal trainers, friends who knew photographers. Our mother, Elaine, loved that world. She had spent 30 years running a successful bridal boutique in Greensboro, which meant weddings were not just celebrations in our family, they were rankings. Public evidence of taste, money, marriageability, and whether a daughter had turned out correctly. Claire had always understood the assignment. I had always been the daughter who made the assignment inconvenient. When we were teenagers, Claire once poured a bottle of red nail polish across the blouse I planned to wear to a scholarship interview. She cried before I even confronted her. By the time our parents entered the room, she had turned the story into an accident and my anger into aggression. Mom told me I was frightening my sister. Dad told me scholarships were not worth tearing a family apart. I borrowed a blouse from a neighbor, went to the interview distracted and embarrassed, and did not get the scholarship. Years later, Mom still told the story at Christmas as proof I had always been intense. Claire learned early that if she caused the damage and cried first, someone else would clean it up. I learned that if I wanted peace, I had to become excellent at swallowing the truth. That lesson followed me into adulthood. I went to North Carolina State on grants and loans. Claire chose a private college and transferred after 1 year because the campus did not fit her. My parents paid both enrollment deposits. I worked evenings in the library and weekends at a grocery store. Mom called me independent. Claire got overwhelmed. I got capable. Claire needed support. I always figured it out. At 27, I met a man named Jason Cole at a hospital fundraiser. He was funny, charming, and very good at making promises sound like plans. We dated fast, moved in together faster, and I became pregnant before I understood that he liked being loved more than he liked being responsible. Our son, Mason, was born the following spring. Jason stayed until Mason was 15 months old. Then he left for what he called a job opportunity in Tampa and slowly reduced fatherhood to birthday texts, inconsistent transfers, and promises to visit. I could have hidden that from my family. I did not. That honesty became another weapon. Mom said I had always confused intensity with love. Dad said I should have chosen more carefully. Claire said, "At least now you know why some women wait for the ring." I wanted to remind her that Jason had talked about marriage constantly. I wanted to remind them that no woman deserves humiliation because a man lies. Instead, I went back to work, found a smaller apartment, learned preschool hours, emergency babysitters, sick day coverage, and the strange mathematics of making one income perform the work of two adults. Mason became the center of my life without becoming the excuse for it. He loved dinosaurs, grilled cheese cut into squares, and weather maps because he thought my hurricane screens looked like giant, colorful monsters. He also had the unnerving habit children have of seeing through adults. At 5, after one Thanksgiving at my parents' house, he asked why Grandma smiled differently at Aunt Claire. I told him every smile was different. He said, "No, hers likes her more." I changed the subject. That Thanksgiving was the first time I understood my family had stopped hiding the hierarchy even from a child. Claire had recently become engaged to Nathan Cole, a civil engineer who had moved from Richmond to Charlotte for work. Nathan was thoughtful, slightly reserved, and nothing like the men Claire usually dated. He volunteered with a housing nonprofit that repaired storm-damaged homes for low-income families. The first time we met, he asked real questions about my work and listened to the answers. Claire interrupted twice to explain that I was basically the hospital version of a hall monitor. Nathan did not laugh. He said, "Continuity planning is why people still have medicine after a flood." Claire smiled tightly and changed the subject. At Thanksgiving, Mom arranged the dining table so Claire and Nathan sat beside her and Dad. Mason and I were placed at the folding table near the kitchen with two cousins in college. When I asked whether there was room at the main table, Mom said, "Rachel, please do not start with seating politics. Claire is getting married. Let her have one holiday where things feel normal." I looked at Mason coloring a turkey on the paper placemat. "What feels abnormal about us?" Mom lowered her voice. "You know what I mean." I did know. Single mother, absent father, child whose existence reminded everyone that life does not always follow the seating chart. During dinner, Claire announced that the wedding would be held at the Grand Magnolia Hotel in Charleston. 200 guests, black tie, string quartet, rooftop cocktail hour. Mom nearly cried with joy. Dad offered to cover the rehearsal dinner. I said it sounded beautiful. Claire smiled at me. "And before you ask, Mason is probably too young for the reception. We are trying to keep the evening elegant." "He is 7. "Exactly." Nathan looked confused. "My nieces are 6 and 8. Claire answered too quickly. "They are in the wedding." Mason stared at his plate. I felt the old instinct to avoid a scene. "We will figure something out." Later, while everyone gathered for photographs by the fireplace, Mom handed me 3 coats and asked me to hold them. By the time I put them down, the family photo had already been taken. Claire posted it that night with the caption, "Everything that matters in one frame." Mason saw it over my shoulder. "Are we not everything?" he asked. That question stayed with me longer than the picture. I began saying no more often after that Thanksgiving. Not dramatic no, small no. When Mom asked me to drive to Greensboro on a Tuesday to help address Claire's invitations, I said I had work. When Claire asked me to cover a bridesmaid's hotel room because the woman was between jobs, I said no. When Dad asked whether I could front the deposit for the family beach rental after the wedding, I told him to book something they could afford without me. The reaction was immediate. Claire texted, "You have gotten weirdly transactional lately." Mom called and said I was punishing everyone because I was unhappy with my own life. I asked which request I had made. She said, "That is not the point. It never was. The point was that the family had grown comfortable with my usefulness and interpreted any reduction in access as hostility." Around the same time, something important was happening at work. Our hospital network had partnered with a regional nonprofit after severe flooding in eastern North Carolina damaged clinics, assisted living facilities, and several affordable housing complexes. I built a rapid response housing and medical supply plan that linked displaced families with temporary apartments while keeping prescriptions, transportation, and home health visits coordinated. It was not glamorous work. Most nights I did it after Mason went to sleep because the official project budget was limited, and I believed the plan mattered. The nonprofit's board reviewed it anonymously at first. 3 weeks later, my director told me the board wanted me to present the model and was considering creating a new director-level position around regional resilience planning. It would mean a meaningful raise, more authority, and the chance to build the kind of program I had wanted for years. I was terrified and thrilled. I told almost nobody. Nathan learned because his housing nonprofit was one of the partner groups. He emailed congratulations after seeing my name attached to the final proposal. "You built the piece everyone was missing," he wrote. I saved that email because nobody in my family had ever described my work that way. Then, 10 days before my interview, my director called me into her office and closed the door. An anonymous email had been sent to 3 board members. It claimed I had exaggerated my role in the flood response, lied about my availability, and had a history of instability related to custody conflict and emotional episodes. My stomach dropped. Those were family words. Emotional episodes. Custody conflict. The email referenced a temporary child support dispute from 5 years earlier that only my parents, Claire, and one attorney had known about. It also mentioned that Mason's father had abandoned the family, language my mother had used during an argument. My director said she did not believe the allegations, but the board wanted clarification before moving forward. I answered every question. I showed project logs, emails, schedules, performance reviews, and the records proving I had done exactly what I said. The interview was postponed anyway. The position remained open. I went home that evening, made Mason spaghetti, helped him build a cardboard volcano, and waited until he was asleep before crying in the shower. I did not accuse Claire, because accusing her without proof would become another story about my intensity. Instead, I told Mom someone had used private family information to interfere with my job. She responded, "Maybe somebody is trying to protect an organization from learning things the hard way." I went completely still. What does that mean? Nothing. I am saying professional people care about reputation. Did you send it? Of course not. Did Claire? Mom sighed. Rachel, do not turn Claire's wedding season into another investigation about you. That sentence answered nothing and told me everything about where her loyalty would go. 3 days later, Claire sent a cheerful group message reminding everyone about final wedding attire. I did not respond. The week before the wedding, my invitation disappeared from the online seating portal. I called the coordinator, who sounded uncomfortable, and said there had been family adjustments. My name had moved from Table 2, labeled Immediate Family, to Table 19 with Claire's coworkers and distant cousins. Claire answered on the second call. "Please do not make this bigger. Why am I not at the family table? Dad gets loud around Mason's situation, Mom gets tense, and I do not want uncomfortable energy near Nathan's parents. Mason is not even coming." Exactly. So relax and just be a guest. I am your sister. Labels do not guarantee closeness. I almost laughed. Okay. Thank you for being mature. The morning of the wedding, Mason stayed with my best friend Danielle. Before I left, he hugged me and asked, "Are they going to be nice this time?" I lied. "They will be busy. I will be fine." He drew a tiny smiley face on my wrist with blue marker for luck. I wore a navy dress I already owned, drove to Charleston alone, and carried a walnut gift box under my arm. Inside was an antique brass compass Nathan had admired months earlier. The engraving read, "Build a home worth finding." At the hotel entrance, Mom looked me over. "Your dress is very dark." "It is navy. Just do not stand too close to Claire in the formal photos. She wants the palette light." "Am I in the photos?" Mom blinked. "We will see how timing goes." Inside the ballroom, the printed program listed Elaine and Robert Caldwell as parents of the bride, Claire, and even her maid of honor under family. My name appeared only on the general guest list, Rachel Bennett. At table 19, my place card said, Rachel Bennett guest. Guest. Not sister. Not daughter. Guest. A coworker of Claire's asked whether we had gone to school together. I said, we shared a bathroom for 16 years. During dinner, Mom passed twice without stopping. Dad was already drinking. Nathan looked distracted, checking his phone more than once. During dessert, he came to me. Rachel, can I talk to you later? Do not leave without finding me. Claire appeared behind him. Honey, they need you for cake photos. She looked at me. Everything okay? Nathan said. It is important. Claire hooked her arm through his. After speeches, they walked away. That was the first moment I knew he had discovered something. The speeches began with Nathan's father, then his best friend, then Claire's maid of honor. Mom spoke next. She described Claire as the daughter who always knew how to build a beautiful life. Dad raised his glass and said Nathan was lucky because Claire did not come with unfinished business. A few people laughed. I stared at the tablecloth. Then Claire stood. She took the microphone, thanked everyone, thanked Mom for being her best friend, Dad for teaching her standards, and Nathan for choosing her. Then she looked directly at me. And of course, I have to thank my sister Rachel for coming. The room turned. I felt my shoulders tighten. Rachel has taught me so much about resilience, she continued. She has made every possible wrong turn: bad boyfriend, single motherhood, no husband in sight, and somehow she keeps going. Soft laughter. My father laughed louder. Claire smiled. Honestly, if anyone here is terrified of ending up alone, just look at Rachel. You can survive almost anything. More laughter. I looked at Mom. She covered her mouth, but she was smiling. Claire continued. Mason is adorable, obviously, but dating a woman with a 7-year-old is basically buying a house with a tenant you cannot evict. Someone near the bar said, "Oh my God," and laughed. Dad called out, "Used house." The room broke into uneven laughter. Some people looked horrified. Most looked uncomfortable. Claire lifted her glass. Maybe Rachel will catch the bouquet. There is somebody for everyone, right? My chest went cold. Not because of me. Mason. She had made my child the joke. I looked at the blue smiley face fading on my wrist and realized I had promised him they would be nice. I had lied because admitting the truth embarrassed me more than their cruelty. Claire raised the microphone again. Seriously, Rachel, stand up. Let everyone see that being the cautionary tale does not mean you cannot still look good in navy. That was when Nathan stood. His chair scraped hard against the floor. Claire laughed nervously. Oh no, do not rescue her. She hates that. Nathan walked to her, took the microphone gently, and said, Claire, stop. Her smile disappeared. What? Stop. The room went quiet. Nathan looked at me first. Rachel, I am sorry. I could not speak. I am sorry because I learned 3 weeks ago that the anonymous email sent to the resilience board came from Claire's company laptop. Claire's face changed instantly. Nathan, he continued. I hoped there was an explanation. I asked her privately. She told me Rachel had somehow accessed her computer because she was jealous of the wedding. My hands began shaking. Nathan reached into his jacket and unfolded several printed pages. The nonprofit's IT consultant reviewed the original email headers because the message involved confidential board material. The source matched Claire's office account. The attached custody information had been scanned from documents saved under Claire's personal cloud folder. Gasps moved through the ballroom. Claire grabbed his arm. You said we were handling this privately. I intended to. Then you spent 5 minutes publicly humiliating the person you tried to damage professionally. Dad stood. This is a wedding. Nathan looked at him. Then why did your daughter turn it into a public attack? Mom said, Nathan, people say terrible things when sisters fight. This was not a fight. Rachel did not know the email existed until her promotion was delayed. Claire's boss, a woman named Marissa Keene, sat 2 tables away. She had gone completely still. Nathan continued. The email contained private family information. It called Rachel unstable. It claimed she used motherhood for sympathy. It said hiring her would embarrass the nonprofit. Marissa stood. Claire, did you send that from our company system? Claire looked toward her. This is family drama. Do not involve work. Marissa's expression hardened. You involved work when you used our equipment and identity to interfere with a professional selection. Claire turned back to Nathan. You are choosing her over me on our wedding day? Nathan shook his head slowly. I am choosing the person I thought I married over the person standing here right now. Claire stared at him as if he had spoken a language she did not understand. What does that even mean? Nathan removed his ring and set it beside the champagne flute. It means I cannot pretend tonight showed me nothing. Claire's mother-in-law covered her mouth. One bridesmaid began crying. Claire whispered, You cannot do this to me here. Nathan's eyes were wet. You were comfortable doing worse to your sister here. That sentence ended the illusion that everyone could laugh and then move on. Claire reached for the microphone, but Nathan stepped back. Give me that. No. She turned toward the room. This is insane. Rachel has wanted to ruin me since we were children. I stood. I had not planned to. My knees simply moved. The ballroom watched me walk toward the stage. Mom mouthed, Do not. That word had controlled me for 30 years. Do not upset Claire. Do not embarrass Dad. Do not correct the story. Do not make a scene. I took the microphone from Nathan. I was going to leave quietly. My voice surprised me by staying steady. That is what I always do. Claire hurts me. Mom explains her. Dad jokes about it, and I go home wondering whether I am too sensitive. Nobody moved, but tonight, you made my son part of the entertainment. I looked at Claire. Mason is 7. He has done nothing to you. She crossed her arms. It was a joke. So was the nail polish on my scholarship blouse. Her face flickered. So was telling Mom I screamed at you after you ruined it. So was telling my college boyfriend I cheated because you were angry he helped me move. So was calling me unstable when Jason left. So was using custody paperwork I trusted you to organize when I was exhausted after Mason's father disappeared. Dad said, Enough. I turned toward him. No. You have had enough microphone for my entire life. A murmur moved through the room. Dad's face reddened. Do not disrespect me. You called your grandson a used house. I was joking. That joke will be the last thing you ever say about my child in front of me. Mom started crying. Rachel, please, we can fix this later. Later is where you put every truth you do not want to face. I looked at the guests. I am a single mother. I work emergency planning for hospitals. I have spent nights coordinating dialysis transport during hurricanes and mornings packing dinosaur sandwiches before school. I have paid my own rent, raised my son, survived abandonment, built a career, and still spent years believing I was the failure because I did not have a husband standing beside me in Christmas photos. My eyes burned. I am not ashamed of my life. I am ashamed I kept bringing my son around people who treated him like proof that I lost. The silence changed. It no longer felt like people waiting for me to fail. It felt like people listening. Marissa came closer. Rachel, our firm will cooperate fully with the nonprofit's review, and Claire, you will not access company systems until we speak Monday. Claire stared at her. You are suspending me at my wedding? I am protecting the company after you admitted this is family drama connected to our equipment. Claire started crying. Nobody understands what she has done to me. Nathan looked at her. What did she do? Claire pointed at me. She makes everything look noble. Single mom, disaster worker. Poor Rachel, fixing everyone's problems. Do you know what it is like having a sister everyone secretly respects while they praise you only because you look good? That confession landed differently than she intended. So, you tried to take my promotion? I asked. Claire wiped her face. You already have this whole hero story. I had one thing. Nathan's nonprofit respected you more than me. He talked about your plan for days. Nathan closed his eyes. Claire. I wanted one room where I was not somebody's shallow sister. I almost felt sorry for her until she continued. Then she shows up looking miserable and everyone suddenly wants to protect her. I did not ask anyone to protect me. You never have to. That is what makes it worse. There it was. Claire had spent years believing my suffering was attention because she could not imagine pain existing without an audience. Mom approached Claire and whispered, "Honey, stop talking." Claire spun toward her. "Do not act innocent. You told me Rachel always uses being abandoned to make people feel guilty." Mom froze. I looked at her. "Did you?" She swallowed. "I was trying to make Claire feel better. By making me smaller. You were always stronger." I laughed once. There it is. Strong. The word families use when they want permission to neglect the person least likely to collapse. I set the microphone down. I did not need the rest of the ballroom. I walked to table 19 and picked up my purse, coat, and walnut box. Nathan followed me into the lobby. He looked wrecked. "Rachel, I am sorry. You did not do this. I knew about the email before tonight. And you confronted her. I should have told you immediately." He was right, but unlike my family, he did not hide behind intention. "Yes," I said. "You should have." He nodded. "The board is reopening your interview. Your work earned that. None of this is why. Thank you." I handed him the walnut box. "This was your wedding gift." He looked at it but did not take it. "Keep it. It is yours." "Not tonight." I opened it and showed him the compass. The engraving caught the chandelier light from the ballroom doors. "Build a home worth finding." Nathan's face crumpled. "That is brutal timing." I almost smiled. Apparently, he finally took the box. "Whatever happens, thank you." Mom entered the lobby before I reached the elevators. "Rachel, please wait." Her makeup had started running. For once she looked like a woman instead of the manager of a family event. "Claire is falling apart." "Then stay with her. She needs her sister." She just called my son baggage in front of 200 people. She did not mean Mason personally. I stared at Mom. "Listen to yourself. I know. I know. I am sorry." "Are you sorry because it hurt me? Or because the room hurt it?" She had no answer. I pressed the elevator button. "Rachel, family cannot end like this." It did not end tonight. Tonight was when I stopped pretending it was healthy. "What about Thanksgiving? Christmas? Mason and I will make plans. You would keep my grandson from me? I will keep my son from anyone who treats his existence like something embarrassing." The elevator opened. Mom whispered, "You are punishing all of us for one bad night." "No. I am responding to 30 years of bad nights that I kept calling isolated." I stepped inside. The doors closed on her crying face. I expected triumph. I felt exhausted. In the parking garage, I called Danielle. Mason was still awake because he had convinced her to let him finish a dinosaur movie. She put him on speaker. "Mommy, did they like your dress?" "Some people did." "Were they nice?" I sat in my car and looked at the blue smiley face fading on my wrist. "Not really." He was quiet. "Are you sad?" "A little." "Come home." 2 words. No speech. No performance. "Come home." I drove back to Raleigh through the night. The next morning, Claire's wedding photographs were already online. The photographer had posted only the ceremony, not the reception. Mom shared a picture of Claire and Nathan beneath the caption, "Sometimes evil attacks the happiest moments." She deleted it 40 minutes later, probably after Nathan's mother called. I did not respond. By Monday, Claire was placed on administrative leave. The nonprofit board contacted me directly, apologized for how the anonymous email had affected the process, and rescheduled my interview. I told them I would participate only if the decision remained based on my work rather than sympathy over the wedding. The board chair said, "That is exactly why we want you." I got the position. Director of Regional Continuity and Community Recovery. More money, yes, but more importantly, a seat at the table where programs were designed instead of only repaired after people made bad decisions. I celebrated by taking Mason for pancakes. He ordered whipped cream and told the waitress I had leveled up at work. I did not explain. 3 weeks later, Thanksgiving approached. Mom sent a group message saying the family needed to come together after a difficult season. Claire was staying with my parents while Nathan lived with his brother and decided whether there was anything left to save. Then Mom added, "Please do not bring up the wedding. Claire is fragile." I stared at that sentence. Nobody had ever requested a holiday where my hurt was protected from discussion. Claire's fragility received a written policy. Mine had always been a personality flaw. I replied, Mason and I will not be attending. Mom called immediately. Your son needs family. He has family. Do not do this because you are angry. I am doing it because I am calm enough to stop repeating the same experience. She said Dad was devastated. I asked whether he had apologized. Silence. We spent Thanksgiving with Danielle, two nurses from my department, her parents, and an elderly neighbor whose children lived out of state. Mason made place cards. On mine, he wrote Mom Boss of Hurricanes. Nobody asked where his father was. Nobody made him evidence. Nobody needed me smaller so the table felt balanced. That evening, Claire posted an old Thanksgiving photograph from 6 years earlier with the caption, Missing the sister I used to have before success changed her. I remembered that when she first posted that same picture, she had cropped me out. Now she restored me because my absence no longer suited the story. That explained our relationship perfectly. When my presence complicated her image, she removed me. When my absence complicated her image, she put me back. Nathan and Claire separated quietly. There was no courtroom spectacle. He simply decided he did not trust the person he had seen at the reception enough to continue building a marriage with her. Claire blamed me for months. I answered once. I wanted my sister not to sabotage my job or mock my child. Everything after that came from your choices. Then I blocked her. Dad's apology came badly at first. I am sorry things got out of hand. I ignored it. Weeks later he tried again. I should not have made that joke about Mason. I said it because everyone was laughing, and I wanted to be funny. I asked whether he thought Mason was less worthy because his father left. He said no. I asked whether he thought I was damaged because I was single. Another no. Then why did you talk like you did? He answered, because it was easier to join the joke than challenge your mother and Claire. Ugly, but honest. I told him he could begin with birthday cards and short supervised visits. No jokes about single mothers. No comments about Mason's father. No gifts used to skip the work of rebuilding. You are giving me rules like I am a child, he said. I am giving you boundaries like you are an adult. He accepted them. Mom took longer. When she finally asked to meet, she began with, I failed you. She admitted Claire had always been easier, because Claire wanted the same things she wanted: appearance, marriage, approval, a life that photographed well. You made choices I could not brag about without explaining them, she said. And when Jason left, I called you strong because neglect sounded uglier. That was the first apology that reached somewhere old in me. It still did not earn immediate access. Understanding is not a key. We began with coffee once a month. 6 months after the wedding, Mom saw Mason at a public park and apologized to him in simple language. I laughed when people said things about you and your mom that were not kind. I should have protected you both, Mason asked. Did you learn? She said. I am trying. He nodded and asked if she wanted to see him climb the rope tower. Children do not need adults to suffer forever. They need adults to become safe. Claire contacted me almost a year later. Her email admitted the anonymous message and the wedding speech. The line that mattered most was, Mason had nothing to do with my anger, and I used him because I knew hurting him would hurt you more. She did not ask for forgiveness. I waited 3 months and replied, I believe your apology. I do not trust you yet. She answered, That is fair. We are not close now. We may never be. My good ending was not Claire losing a husband or a title. It was Mason doing homework at my kitchen table while I prepared for storm briefings. It was a promotion I earned. It was Thanksgiving with people who did not require me to explain why my family counted. I used to think loyalty meant absorbing humiliation quietly because conflict embarrassed me. Now I know a family that demands your silence, but offers no protection is not asking for peace. It is asking for permission. I will never give that permission again. So tell me honestly, If your own sister publicly mocked you and your child at her wedding after secretly trying to sabotage the career you built as a single parent, would a sincere apology ever be enough to rebuild that relationship, or would some betrayals permanently change how close family is allowed to stand?